executive session. Bob did. Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor? All right, we're out of the executive session.
Mr. Chairman, as a follow-up to the executive session, we do have a motion to make. And that is to authorize the town manager to deal with the two personnel issues that we discussed tonight.
Okay.
I make that motion.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Okay. We're all set there. All right, we'll call this order. First on the agenda is the allegiance, pledge of allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. We don't have any presentations, correct, Bob?
Correct.
Okay. Let's see. All right, we get a special town meeting tonight. First on the agenda is elect a moderator.
I nominate Mr. Paul Smeltzer.
Second.
Any other nominations? Seeing none, all those in favor?
You have to check on your little white paper.
Oh, that's right.
Sorry. I did most of it.
Shall we fold it up so you can't see it?
Secret ballot.
It's a secret.
Secret ballot.
He didn't vote twice.
You are
He
up.
has my
Oh.
Good evening. Article 2. Shall the town authorize the select board to convey up to 0.25 acres of map U4 lot 62 to Volunteers of America for $1 and on such other terms and conditions that the select board deems to be in the best interest of the town? We have a motion.
I would make that motion.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any questions or discussion? Any comments?
I would just comment that the reason for the motion is, the article is that, we need to ensure that Volunteers of America, when they build their new facility for senior housing, is in compliance with setback requirements of the town, land use ordinance. So that's why we're making this ordinance tonight.
Any additional questions? Hearing none. All those in favor of Article 2, please signify by raising your orange cards. Thank you. Those opposed by the same sign? Seeing none, Article 2 passes. I'll this time take a motion to adjourn the special town meeting.
Make a motion to adjourn the town meeting.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. All those in favor of adjournment, please signify by raising your card. Thank you. Meeting is adjourned.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator.
Yes, thank you, sir. All right, now we'll move along. No, you're fine. You're fine. Keep me straight. There's no presentations tonight, correct, Bob?
No.
Adjustments to the agenda.
There are two.
Okay,
One would be to hold a public hearing under number 4 on the agenda for Bullwinkle's liquor license. And the second would be under new business to add as 10.4 the Sylvania concept, which we'll be discussing with Max.
is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion on those? Seeing none, all those in favor? Okay, cool. I guess we'll move right into that. Under public hearings. Bob, would you like to open that up?
I move that we have a public hearing about Bullwinkle's liquor license.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
All those in favor? Okay. I'll look at you, Pam, because this just come across our desk tonight, so. Could you fill us in real quick?
Sure, there's been no issues with them whatsoever. I check in with the chief. He has had and recommends that it be renewed.
Is there any other questions from the board? Seeing none. Take any in the audience? Seeing none. Would somebody like to make a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved.
Is there a second? All those in favor? Okay. Now would somebody like to make a motion to act on that liquor license?
I make the motion to approve the Bullwinkle liquor license as presented.
Second.
Any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? He is all set. All right, and underway. Citizens' comments. Is there anybody? Ruben, step right up, front and center, please.
Still in this pile, scary as this copies of all that nonsense I have to say.
That's a lot of nonsense.
I'm Ruben Mahar, resident of Waldeboro. I sit on the EDC, on the Budget Committee, and I'm a noted cat enthusiast. I've come tonight to remind everyone about two things they may not know about. The first is the Affordable Connectivity Program. Anyone making less than 200% of the federal poverty guideline, as well as some other conditions that are outlined in the form, can apply to that and save $30 a month off their communication bill. This is not charity. It's your tax dollars going back to the folks who need it and easing the pocketbook a little bit. I've left 10 applications on that back bench over there for people that want that on paper. It's got all the info there. Anyone that has any additional questions on the Affordable Connectivity Program would do well to reach out to our community navigator.
Does she have the information for that?
I believe so.
Okay.
It's a pretty common question. The
Okay.
problem is people that are having that struggle don't necessarily have access to the internet all the time. So usually they need a hand getting that set up.
Mhm.
But it's something you renew once a year, and $30 can mean a lot to a lot of folks. The second thing I wanted to mention was a bill called LD 240. And I'm not going to state here my support for or against it. I'm just going to encourage everyone to go look at it. LD 240 is for multi-dwelling units, so apartment complexes, things like that, anything with more than 3 apartments in it. Right now, it is possible to own one of those buildings and control who the internet service provider is. So you would only have a Spectrum or a TDS or whoever. This bill is meant to equalize that and let tenants reach out to ISPs directly. That will do a couple of things. It might make people feel like they have more choice, but it also introduces competition. And again, it hits your wallet. When Spectrum or TDS or LCI has to compete, they're usually going to charge less. And, I get there's apartment building owners where that's their business and there's individual tenants, but I'm thinking about, again, a lot of folks in Waldeboro that don't have a lot of money. Things like this will affect more buildings here as we grow. At some point, we're going to have multi-dwelling units here. We're getting ready to build one now. So I would read that. I would reach out to your representative. I can tell you Abden's called me at home. We've discussed things, we've disagreed, and it's still been friendly. And that's worth being aware of. The papers I'm leaving are printed out 10 copies of LD 240. I almost said 204, which I'm sure is an unrelated bill. And it's everything I got. Cool. The other is a longer version of those comments. Thanks.
Thank you.
Any other public comments? The Billy Maxwell.
Bill Maxwell, resident of Waldeboro Historical Society. First of all, I want to publicly thank one of your board members, Mr. John Blodgett, for his assistance in removing some granite pieces from the AD Gray facility for the Historical Society. Use of a tractor that he borrowed and his trailer and his time. So, John, thank you. And this weekend is the brick sale to benefit the Historical Society. Starts at 9 to 2, both Saturday and Sunday. Doesn't matter what the weather is. And there's a special price for Bob and then a price for everybody else.
They double for Bob, I hope.
Pretty much.
Four times.
Four
Four times, yeah.
Four times. I was being generous.
Yeah,
Bob, I'll
he's-
buy him for you. How's that?
I'll be buying,
I'll give
I
him to you. All right, any other public comments? Seeing none, we'll move on to select board comments. Bob?
I was given a letter that I was asked to read out. It's from Spectrum Generations addressed to Peg Tyan, who is our finance director. And it reads, Dear Peg, thank you for the $4,000 donation made on 11/13/2023 from the town of Waldeboro. This support is already furthering Spectrum Generations' mission to bring nutrition, social engagement, wellness, and independence to older and disabled adults living throughout central and mid-coast Maine. Please know that your gift matters and will be used to support programs and services that in turn help thousands of people each year. You've made a powerful contribution with this generous gift, and we are committed to being excellent stewards of your generosity. We are gratefully appreciative of your commitment to our work. Sincerely, Lindsay McDonald, VP of Community Engagement. It's a very nice thank you.
Awesome. I think it's the first time we've ever gotten a letter like that, isn't it? From
I
that?
can't remember.
Yeah.
No, that's really nice.
Yep, absolutely. John?
Just one small thing, 5 months from now, just over 5 months from now, Waldeboro Day is scheduled to happen. I haven't heard any word or information of anyone that's starting to think about forming up a Waldeboro Day. In the past, obviously last year we had our 250th, which was fairly successful, even though it rained cats and dogs. But that took some effort to do that. And it takes some effort to do Waldeboro Day, and we need volunteers. So I don't know, maybe that's something that we need to discuss on how we're gonna generate some volunteers and make something like this happen in June of this year. My thought would be just because, well, in the previous to the 250th, the last few years, our recreation director has kind of spearheaded it. It's not fair to him to have to run the whole thing by himself without volunteers. So somehow we have to generate some volunteers. I had a lot of people inquire about helping out. So now's your opportunity to help out. So if anyone wants to help volunteer, contact folks at the town office, and we'll start forming up some type of Waldeboro Day committee, because June will be here before we know it. And there is some effort that has to be made to make it somewhat successful.
Yeah, cool. I think we have a Waldeboro Day committee, don't we? It's just,
Not that I know of. Julie, do you know of a Waldeboro Day committee?
Bill.
No, it's just Matt, just Marcus.
Okay,
There really isn't a committee.
Mike? Will?
I don't know anything.
I just got one thing. I got contacted by somebody in town that they've been trying to show their 3-year-old son how to ride a horse and stuff like that. And there's been some issues up on Filer's Corner Road for people to slow down. She's had issues with people speeding by, and she just wanted me to ask if where everybody may hear this is if they slow down, and when they see a horse or something like that, that they should, especially with a 3-year-old kid on the horse trying to learn how to ride, just to slow down. You know, horses have the right of way just as much as an individual on the road. So, yep.
Is there any signage up there?
No, there isn't. And she asked if there could be a sign up there. I got to talk to Julie about that. Maybe even talk to Will of a farming sign. There's I can't remember the guy's name. He's got a small farm up there with horses. That's where she's using his facility to take her son on a horseback ride. So, but maybe that's something we look into, is putting signage up there. So, but thank you, Derek, for that. All right, we'll move along. Town managers report. You still
The
on there,
town-
Julie?
I'm here, sorry. The town, I just wanted to say that I sent a letter off to the Maine DOT for the speed study for Main Street up by Moody's that was requested at the last meeting. And I also wanted to thank Public Works for doing a great job with the storm over the weekend. It was nice to look on Facebook and get so many compliments.
Cool. All right, we'll move along to the consent calendar. Would somebody like to make a motion to approve the consent calendar?
Make that motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussions? Seeing none, all those in favor? New business, Lincoln County Animal Control Contract. We had one here. Believe it had a 5% increase.
The chief recommends that we continue with that service.
Now, did we budget for the 5% increase in our last budget? I don't know if we did or not.
What it would be for this coming budget that we would budget.
Okay, so this will be into this,
Correct.
all right, 24-25 budget. Bob?
There was an issue raised by the sheriff about having a hold harmless clause included in this contract. Julie, am I correct in that?
Yes,
And he was gonna have discussions with the towns about it. Did he do that?
I did not have any discussions with him, and I was going to speak with our attorney about that.
Okay, I would just suggest that if he wants that from the towns, there ought to be something in the contract that addresses gross negligence,
Correct.
because we shouldn't be held responsible for somebody's gross negligence, that's all.
Correct.
Yeah,
So
thank you.
we shouldn't vote on this tonight? Is
You
that what-
can vote on it pending the resolution that I have with the sheriff's department.
Okay. Would somebody like to make a motion to that effect?
Okay, I'll move to enter into the contract with Lincoln County Animal Control with the caveat stated.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Any more discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Okay. All right, EMS rate changes. Derek, would you like to step up? Please.
Thank you guys for getting me on the agenda this evening.
Yes.
The reason why I'm here is to discuss our billing rates. Comstar about this time every year sends out an update on what's happening in the Medicare world. And they're allowing for essentially a 4.7 increase of the Medicare allowable. That's what we can bill above that, but that's what Medicare will allow us to bill. There's some statute on it somewhere I could probably pull up, but basically they're increasing for our area 4.7%. So the reason why I'm coming to you guys tonight instead of during the budget meetings is because this will help me better anticipate and project revenue if we increase our rates now for fiscal year 25 versus changing it mid-fiscal year or at the first of fiscal year 25 and then having to project kind of backwards. So trying to get this done early. Our previous billing change was in fiscal year 23. It was 7/1/22. So the first of fiscal year 23, we haven't made any changes in this fiscal year billing wise. Comstar also provides us with information of their 200 plus clients that they provide ambulance service billing for. And they send us what they call the top 50. And that's the averages of the top 50 clients as far as the highest prices go. So basically it averages out on what they're getting in return and it becomes their top 50. So they send us that information as well. Waldoboro remains quite a bit below their top 50. And the reasons for that are areas south of us, like Boston and those types of areas that have hospitals within, a mile or two of their stations or where they're going for calls. They make up for lack of mileage on overall flat rate billing. So basically the letter you have in front of you that is addressed to Julie and you folks. Julie has not seen this yet. She knows I was coming to talk to you guys this evening about it. Proposes our rate changes that I would like to see moving forward immediately. It's pretty simple. Comstar can send us a rate change form. We submit it through email and our rates are changed in accordance with that form once it's signed by myself, as approved by you guys. So basically, I propose that we increase everything $100. That's what we did in our last change. And that sort of leaves us in the area where we're still taking care of our our coverage area as respectfully as we can. And not, I guess gouging would be the word I would use. And we also remain still quite a lot below the Medicare, or excuse me, the Comstar top 50 allowable. So those numbers you have in front of you, they have a current and I propose it's just $700. And those services are what we render, basically from basic life support emergencies to transfers. What we cannot change is our mutual aid fees because they're contractually agreed upon with those services. We provide those services for. So intercept fees and mutual aid fees, they're signed and agreed upon between the service and another service. So we can't change those, but everything else we can change, frankly, as high as we want to, or as low as we want to. But certainly this rate covers the Medicare allowable increase and then some. I also would encourage us to go up in our loaded mile. That's what we bill on top of the flat rate for our services. We also bill a dollar amount per loaded mile. So we would be increasing in this proposal, if approved by the select board, it would be $17.50 a loaded mile from $15.50. So a $2 increase there, $100 increase for the services that we render. That sort of, like I said, doesn't really kind of gouge folks, but also allows us to make up for increasing prices and diesel fuel and those types of things. So I can give you some rough increases. Just running some quick numbers. This is without any mileage at all, based on fiscal year 23, which was our last full year. If we were to have billed at these rates, we would bill out just right off the top for 911 calls, $119,000 more. If we were to go with these rates based on last year's calls. So I'm here to entertain any conversation, questions. It's like I said, we stay well below those top 50 services that Comstar bills for. Yeah, for example, like an ALS emergency, we're $1,500 less right off the top than their average. But again, something to consider in these discussions is that a lot of those services have very little loaded mile billable revenue. So.
Is there any questions? Well,
We can't do anything with our mutual aid partners at this point. Are we gonna be taking a hit? Is this an
No,
opportunity cost or is this a revenue loss?
in mutual aid,
Yeah,
no, it remains a lucrative service,
okay, and
for sure.
at what point can we sit down and talk to them about adjusting?
Really, it would just be a matter of scheduling a meeting to address those things. I mean, we left the agreement sort of open-ended.
Yep.
But I will tell you, I would not encourage it. I think we set those prices relatively lucratively. And that's before we bill any of the patient's insurances or anything like that. That's just a flat rate that we bill to those towns. And so far it's proved
It's worked out better than it used to.
beneficial for sure. And I would not want to sever any of those ties, and that would become a loss for sure. So, and we do offer them, just for the topic of conversation, we do offer them sort of a deal on our services comparatively to those that would be taking our place if we were to sever ties with them for overpricing. So.
Just a comment. Keep an eye on the news and reading some of the news that's going in the surrounding area with ambulance services and some of the increases. I'm not going to mention any names, but some big increases going on. So keep an eye on that.
So I think, like I said, this is kind of the one thing that we can do proactively attempt to help us offset our costs, again, without sort of, becoming astronomical for the people, because we just want to provide a service. We really do, but we have to attempt to offset some of those costs. So these numbers are very, very conservative as to how high we could go. And I think that our billing company does a fantastic job of providing us with this information as soon as it becomes available to them. But B, just doing what they do. I mean, we get reports monthly of for the price that we're paying them, the service we get in return is very good. So, but again, I think this is one of those areas where we can make a quick decision that's educated by those that we pay to educate us, and also not really cause too much stress on, our tax base or the citizens that we serve. So.
Anybody else get anything? Cool. Thank you, Derek.
Yeah, is this something you want me to proceed with?
I make the motion that we proceed forward with the billing rate changes as proposed.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any more discussion? Seeing none?
I have a question. Most of these fees, I presume, are paid by insurance companies and not individual citizens.
So that's a yes and no answer, Mike. We bill any available insurances first and foremostly. The remainder does fall on the patient, really. So, we bill insurances, we bill Medicare, we bill Medicaid, and then what's left over does become.
So this $100 increase could fall on the individual.
It could.
Mhm.
Yeah, it could.
Bob?
Is it still the fact, though, that our ambulance service is not revenue positive?
Yes.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
It's been that way for a while.
Yeah.
So this
We're,
will improve the negative position we've
Yeah.
got and have had for some time.
and I think,
As a reminder, if people do have difficulty paying, they can apply if they're Waldeboro residents through the Philbrook Fund.
that's what I was just gonna mention before Julie said it. So there are avenues in which we certainly explore to lessen that burden if it does become one. But we kind of find ourselves in a position of having to increase our prices, because if we stay like this, it's going to cost us.
As a
So-
whole, as
As a
a
whole,
tax
Yeah.
base.
Then we're going to be asking more from the overall tax base to offset our costs. So that's where it becomes a little tricky. And again, we bill so much less than those big services that have so much less transport time and those types of things. So
More discussion? Seeing none? All those in favor? We're all set.
thank you.
When
I
will
will-
this be coming in fact?
So I'll submit this first thing tomorrow morning, and Comstar will email me back when they have the information, and these will go into effect probably tomorrow.
Okay.
Pending any crazy weather that we're gonna run into this evening. So thank you, guys.
Awesome. Well, thank you. Thank you, Derek, for being on top of this. Safety policy. This fall on you, Julie?
Peg in here?
I think Peg was going to come in for this one.
Okay,
No, she left. Peg left.
Oh,
She had to leave early.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that. Yes, this is the update on the safety policy that you guys looked at back in June. It's to make us current with MMA standards and to basically set forth our policy and qualify for refunds of how we do things through the MMA, through our insurance.
I don't see anything in our,
No, it wasn't printed.
it wasn't printed.
It's cute.
Oh, okay, okay.
I've got a question. I wish Peg was here.
Me too.
And I know we looked at this before, but something just jumped out at me. Talking about accidents. So a town employee gets in an accident, obviously they have to fill out the incident report. Paragraph 3, CDL drivers involved in the auto accident in the town vehicle must, whether or not at fault, have to have a drug and alcohol screening.
Correct.
So is that only an employee that holds a commercial driver's license?
Yes.
Or an employee that operates a commercial vehicle? i.e. fire
My
truck.
understanding is if they hold a CDL license, they have to be tested.
I think that's in accordance with, you probably know more about it than I do.
Yeah, that's why I'm asking, yeah. Put this lightly, those fire trucks they should be driven by commercial folks with commercial driver's license. However, state of Maine recognizes the fact that if we had to do that, we wouldn't have anyone driving them. So my concern is maybe that's something we ought to look into. If we wreck a fire truck, that person needs to be tested because they are driving a vehicle that is technically should be driven by a commercial.
I mean, technically we can test anybody we want per policy. So you could add that language into that policy tonight.
Is there a threshold at which point?
26
Kick in?
26,000 pounds.
I'm talking about a dollar amount or amount of damage or is it just any?
As far as the federal rules for commercial drivers, if they're in a commercial vehicle and they get an accident, they should be tested. If they're at fault. I know someone that was in an accident, wasn't at fault and didn't have to get tested.
I talked with Peg quite a lot today about the safety policy and plan in general, and I think I would encourage everybody to look at this in sort of a broad light, and by that I mean sort of like Julie was saying, every case is a little different, and I don't, if you pin yourself to a policy, you end up having to do it for everybody kind of all the time, which I think would include, you know, if we're going to test Paul's folks when they are involved in a fire apparatus accident, we should be testing my folks if they're involved in an ambulance accident, so on and so forth. So whatever the board decides to do with that verbiage, I would encourage you guys to stay kind of broad on it and allow some discretion of the select board or the safety committee when it comes to the safety plan on, as long as we're following all the laws, right, in accordance with law. But I think, you know, looking at things sort of case by case is probably better than pinning ourselves to every little, you know, ding and dent ending up with a.
And that's what I was saying. You know, at what level if someone just rubs the side of something, does that trigger them having to go and do it? Or if they're
No, not necessarily. If it's a reportable accident.
What's there must be a dollar amount on a report.
If it's reportable.
A reportable accident.
Reportable accident, yeah.
Is that fine, Paul?
It
Is,
doesn't offend me and you to
Yeah.
have anybody. test it,
Yeah.
But I just the only thing I didn't want to see was any, like Derek said, any little.
Yeah, you bump into the garage bay door, you know.
I just wanted, not opposed to it, I just wanted to
Yep.
be at a
No,
reasonable.
absolutely. That's why I was waiting to. So,
But I
so
think it
we,
should be across, I'm gonna cut you off.
Right, yeah.
I think it should be across the board.
Yep.
I think if it's either
EMS and,
everybody.
Yep.
You know, if it's a reportable vehicle accident, which knock on wood, you know, maybe that's something to consider across the board versus just narrowing down to a commercial vehicle and, you know. those types of things.
is that something we can do, Julie? No problem.
Yes.
Okay, maybe that's what we look at then before we make a decision on. Or do you want to make a decision tonight on this?
Take a if you want, we can hold that out and bring it as a revision at the next meeting.
Okay. Bob,
Are we also approving the bloodborne pathogens policy tonight along with the safety policy? I thought they were part and parcel of the same package, but maybe I misunderstood.
Same thing.
I thought they were the same thing, Bob.
Yeah.
I thought together.
So
Yeah.
he came into my office before she left and said, hey, because we talked quite a lot about the bloodborne pathogens policy today. So I can try to substitute for her if anybody has any further questions. I know you've had some, Bob. that
I did,
we
yeah.
We sort of touched on them today. I don't know if she spoke with you via email or not. But
No, she said she was gonna make some revisions and reprint it, but if she had something going on, obviously that wasn't happening.
yeah, well, I think she got to it. I
Oh, did she?
followed it. I'm not sure where it is right now. I don't know where it is, but I certainly could try to field any questions beyond that.
That on the next meeting with the other revision, Bob, and just adopt the safety policy.
It's fine.
okay.
I make the motion, we table this discussion until the next board meeting.
Is there a second?
Second,
All those in favor?
Wait, are we tabling the whole safety policy?
Yeah, because you're gonna revise it, right?
I would go with the safety policy as it is right now.
has MMA put, sorry,
Go ahead, Bob.
has MMA put a deadline on us, Julie?
No, but I think there are some safety issues in there that we wanted to have addressed so that we have the policy to be able to enforce them.
So if we
So,
approve.
like
it
to make
tonight
a
And then amend it.
And then amend at the,
I take back my
motion.
motion.
Do you take back your second, Bob?
Yes.
Okay. Would somebody like to make a motion to approve the safety policy as written and make amendments in the future? Somebody like to make that motion?
I'll make that motion.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, any more discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? All right, well, yeah.
Well,
through
we're on a
that.
tree there, that one.
All right, 10.4 Sylvania
Don't want a
Concepts.
comedy show.
The max. A million, worth a billion, I guess, now.
Worth a million.
I don't know, Julie, I think because of inflation, I have to go for 2 billion now.
Oh, yeah.
Anyways,
Gotta have goals, gotta have goals.
I always love you groaning at my bad jokes, man. Anyways. So the Sylvania Committee has been meeting for quite some time, and yesterday. They wanted to send off the concept plans that you all have in front of you. Sorry that most of you probably don't have a copy of me, but this is just a rough concept plan to have the concrete slab over at Sylvania turn into sort of a recreational facility. Some tennis / pickleball courts, basketball courts, plenty of parking to accommodate Sammy's entertainment as well as the activities going on at this place. On the far left, there would be a separate place for service parking so that if there's an emergency, it's not going to interfere with the public parking, as well as an area for lead vents or Osram to continue their groundwater testing. Really, the suggestion that has been made by the committee is to send this off to Pine Tree Engineering so that we can get an actual study done to see how much it's going to cost to cap this site, so that if the town decides to move forward with a recreational facility proposal like this, we know how much that will cost and what materials would be needed. And so there's just a few notes I do want to make that may not be reflected on this plan. For starters, in the northern part that you see in this yellow highlight that's called lawn throughout it, there's this area in the more western part of it that we're just going to make sure is notable for stormwater and discharge. That was a big concern for some of the committee members, and want to just make sure that the engineer is paying attention to that. There has been sort of some back and forth on the size of this pavilion that's in the most northern part. And I want to stress to everyone here tonight that, you know, everything on here is simply a concept plan. The engineer could come back and say, well, we can this is what everything is going to look like, but overall, the final plan is going to be going to the voters, and we're hoping to maybe have a forum, maybe later this year, May or June, so we can discuss this sort of as an update for the town. But anyways, So pavilion size is something that's put on there as 28 by 50, but some members have wanted it to be a bit bigger, so we're gonna ask the engineer to say, what would be a proper fit for it for a bigger size pavilion. Walkability was another thing that we're gonna ask the engineers to sort of give some recommendations on. There's a sidewalk that's close by to it, but doesn't get right up to the site. And since there's been some desire to have some trails go out through the waterfront part of the property, there's sort of this desire to have a trailhead connector to the concrete slab. So having some easier pedestrian access to it would be pretty nice to have. And then just an idea for, you'll see throughout the concept plan, all these numbers, like GP3, GP4, those are all ground well testing sites that Sylvania has done to take track of plume. Some of them aren't necessary anymore, so we're just gonna have to talk with DEP about which ones can be removed to help satisfy these plans. And so tonight, I'm really just asking about sending these off to the Pine Tree Engineering from the select board so that we can get a concept plan put together. And also just a reminder that Julie will probably correct me when I'm wrong. I think last November 2023, 2022, the town approved to use about 10,000 or so from the Friendship Street school sale to help pay for the study. And then we also got 2,500 from Lincoln County to go towards this as well. So that's where all the funding for this is coming from.
Bob?
I just want to thank the Sylvania Development Committee and Max and Julie. This has been a long drawn out process. They put in a lot of hours and time. And especially Barbara Boardman, who, if she hadn't come up with this conceptual drawing, we'd probably still be meeting, trying to figure out what it was going to look like at the end of the day, or what we would like to see it look like at the end of the day. So, yeah, a lot of work went into this.
Anybody else? All right, would somebody like to make a motion to send this to the engineers?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any more discussion? Seeing none? Oh, go ahead.
Doesn't really have to do with this, but what's going on with the House's house?
So far, we did a site walk on January 2nd, and I only had one demolition company come out interested with demolishing the property, as well as some members from the Sylvania Committee. And then this past week, I've had some interest from people who are interested in rehabilitating the building. One person, I believe, is in Waldoboro, and then one is a couple from Blue Hill. So we still have some interest for the property, and it's a matter of seeing who submits something by January 31st. But I have been telling them that we just need to see some offers. We're very flexible and negotiable. We just need to see some people with qualifications.
Yeah, we don't want the tire kickers, we want by January 31st
Right.
deadline.
Yeah, I told them, get me something by January 31st and show us that you can do this project.
All those in favor of this concept? Send it in. Cool. You're all set, Max. All right. There's no old business. Do you have any items for the next agenda? Bob?
One obviously would be the safety policy and the bloodborne pathogens discussion. There's another one too, concerning archaeology in Waldoboro. I'd like there to be a presentation. 3 gentlemen have requested the opportunity to speak to us about archaeology in town.
Yeah.
And the auditors are coming. No, really, they are. With
Didn't mean to laugh.
21, 22, and 23.
There's an interstate septic system contract renewal.
Okay. Yeah, and if anything else comes up in the meantime, I'm sure we will see it on the agenda. Somebody like to make a motion to adjourn?
The move.
Second.
All those in favor? Sweet, we are done.
Good night. Sorry I wasn't there.
Sorry. Well, thank you for being
Feel
there
better.
regardless.